Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have Coco. She is a mini golden doodle. She was in about a month and a half ago, and we're going to do 3/4 on her today. So I start with applying the diluted shampoo directly to the dry coat. And I like to apply a very generous amount to the coat. Your shampoo is already diluted, so makes it spread a lot easier on the dry coat. The reason I apply it to the dry coat is it helps save some time, save water. I also find that when you wet the coat down and then you're applying diluted shampoo, it kind of dilutes the shampoo a little bit more. I like to really work the shampoo in with my hands. I don't use like a bathing system or anything like that. Always make sure you loosen your grooming loop and shampoo and rinse under the grooming loop. It's okay, Coco. Come here. When I'm applying shampoo to the head, I like to apply kind of starting far away from the eyes, and then I work it in with my fingers closer. Same with on the muzzle, I apply it kind of lower on the muzzle, and I work it up with my fingers. To try and get their eye crusties off. Good girl, Coco. Yeah. Good girl. Yeah. Okay, then we're going to do the first rinse. The first rinse doesn't have to be as thorough as the second rinse, but you want to get the majority of the shampoo and the dirt off. As you can see the water, can you see the water here, Josh? It's pretty dark. You can see all the dirt in there. Can you see it?
Yep.
So that's kind of what your first shampoo you should see pretty dirty water coming off of them. When I do my first rinse, I like to start towards the back of the dog, just kind of introduce them to the water and kind of work my way up to their head, so I'm not just putting it directly on their head the first time. Come here, Coco. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Coco. Good girl. Come on. apply the second shampoo, Coco, it's okay. I start, far away from her eyes, just applying it around. And then I work it up with my fingers closer to her eyes, being extra careful not to get any in her eyes. You'll notice too when I'm rinsing, I like to rinse their eyes. And the reason I like to do that is just in case you were to get any shampoo particles in their eyes, just help flush them a little bit and make sure there's nothing, no chemicals in there. Oh, sweetie. Their face is one of their dirtiest areas because that's all the food collects in their beard, and their eyes weep and they get ear infections, and just usually a very smelly, dirty part of them, so I like to take a lot of time and scrub their face. I like to make sure I'm getting in their little armpits and in their paw pads in between every toe, making sure you're getting their sanitary really good. Your bathing is going to be the foundation of your groom, and if you don't have a really, really good bath, there could be still some dirt, or if you don't rinse them well enough, there could be some product left. So if you were to have dirt or any product in their coat during the groom, it's gonna make the groom not turn out as good as it could. It's gonna make it really difficult to work with. I like to get a really good suds going. Make sure every hair got shampoo on it. If they have any like crusties stuck to their butt, I usually pull it off in the bath. Hi, Coco. Good girl. Good girl, Coco. Okay, then after the 2 shampoos, I like to add conditioner. Conditioner is also diluted. I do 2 pumps per bottle. I like to add the conditioner right on top of the shampoo. I add a pretty generous amount. This just helps save time and water as well. It also just kind of ensures that I don't over condition her. I find that I get a pretty good balance when I apply it to the shampoo. I condition every dog. The shampoo strips the coat of its natural oils, and the conditioner just helps replenish it, so they will have a lot healthier skin. A lot healthier skin and coat. A lot of times the dogs that are really greasy, People use a lot of like degreasers on them and stuff, which can help in the temporary, but in the long run, can be pretty damaging to their skin and coat. So when you add conditioner, their body doesn't have to work as hard to replace those oils that the shampoo stripped out or that the degreaser stripped out. So it can actually make their skin and coat a lot better over time. Okay, so the final rinse, I do a very, very thorough rinse. I start at the head and I work my way back and down, making sure that the last thing I rinse are her feet. Good girl. So I like to rinse the bottom of the tub too, just so that all the suds go down the drain. So she's not standing in soap. And then I like to just kind of go around and squeeze the excess coat or the excess water out of her coat. Such a good girl, Coco. Yeah, you're such a good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. We just use cotton towels at my salon. I usually use like 2 towels per dog. Getting as much water out of her coat as possible will help speed up the drying process. Good girl. Usually when the dogs see the towels, they get super happy because they know that's the end. Alright, so after the bath is done, I like to just get the last kind of little bit of water out of her coat. As you can tell, this towel is pretty soaked. What I like to do when they're still damp is I like to use a variety of sprays. One of the sprays that I really like to use is Chris Christensen Ice on Ice. It's just a detangling spray. I find it's really good for like dual coats. If they have any matting, it just kind of helps it just blow right out. The Best Shot Ultra Max finishing spray. It's also just a detangler, a little bit of an anti-stat. I like to use happy hoodies on dogs. It's like a sweatband material. You can just put your hands in and spread it apart. And then I like to grab their ears and fold them down. And that just helps with the noise. It also just gives them like a soft compression, which helps reduce anxiety. I also like to wear ear protection. A lot of times I'll have wireless headphones that I'll wear under these. These are the 3M noise canceling headphones. And I also use a cotton towel while I'm drying. I kind of I hold it behind the spot that I'm drying to kind of blow the water into the towel to soak it up so it doesn't go into the air and cuts down on humidity a little bit. I'm going to be drying her with a cone nozzle, but it's cut on the end, so it's not quite as pointed. I usually like to make one pass over the entire dog to blow off all of the excess water, and then I go back and section out the dog. Like I'll do the strip up the back, I'll do the back leg, the rib cage, the front leg and shoulder, chest, turn her around, do the same thing on the other side, just to make sure that I'm getting each area extremely dry. It's important to get the coat 100% dry. You don't want any wet spots or anything like that. So yeah, and then once I'm done drying with the cone nozzle, I'll take the nozzle off and kind of do another pass around her body, make sure I got everything dry, and then I'll dry her head.
Good girl. Oh, what a nice girl. Yes. Yes. Oh, what a nice girl. Yeah.
So after the bathing and drying, I like to do a thorough brush out. I use the Hydra detangling spray. I put it in a mister bottle. So I like to just mist them with that and kind of work on section by section. Start with her tail. I like this long pin Artero brush. It helps really get down, especially in those like thicker doodle coats. Really helps get down to the skin level. And once I believe it's free of tangles, then I'll take the comb through. Make sure. Come here, girl. You can notice when I first go through, it sounds pretty scratchy, the brush. It's just kind of getting stuck in the tangles of the hair. But once the tangles are through, it just runs super smooth. You don't even hear it. So that's a good indication that you've gotten through that section, is when the brush can run through it without hitting resistance or making the scratchy noise.
Yeah, you're a good girl. You're a good girl.
Good girl. The smaller brush I'm using is the Harsley brush, and that one I really like for feet and faces. It really like pulls, it grabs the hair really well, so it can get all the little hairs in those more hard to reach areas.
Good girl. So nervous. Yeah, I'm so nervous. It's okay. You're gonna be fine.
Gotta be really careful when you're brushing around their eyes. You don't want to get too close with the pins. Good girl. Even though she's panting a lot, she doesn't seem to be super drooly, so that's nice. Yeah. Good girl. When I'm first starting haircuts, I like to get the paw pads and nails done and the sanitary done. So I'm gonna start by doing her paw pads. I like to use a number 40. I use the 5-in-1 Bravura clipper on the 40 setting, and I'm just gonna scoop out her pads. I like to focus right on the middle. I don't like to go out on the edges because the edges are the edges are going to like build up your foot when you're scissoring, so I don't like to trim into the edge. I like to just focus right on this middle part. And you'll see while I'm shaving the paw pads, I take my fingers and I pull the paw pads apart to get really deep in there. Pulling it apart helps kind of make sure you don't get that webbing in between the toes. It kind of just keeps everything really taut in there. So that's what I like the paw pad to look like. Okay, so next we're gonna do her nails. Her nails are pretty long, so I'm going to file them today. And what I like to do when I'm starting out clipping, I like to do what is called a shaving method. So I'm just gonna take a little bit off at a time until I start to see the quick. You can see the little black dot that's starting there. So we're just gonna, right there. So we're gonna try and get them all down to the little black dot. The shaving method is a safer way to get close to that without having an accident. Okay, and then what I like to do is put the Dremel on a pretty low setting and just round the edges. Perfect. And then you can check to make sure that they're not sharp. You can just kind of run your fingers along. Okay. Same thing on this side. Just gonna use the little shaving method. What I like to do is make one cut straight and then kind of go side to side with the nail trimmer to get the nail down a little further. Hey, Coco, it's okay. Perfect. Shh, 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 shh. You're okay, Coco. I know, it's okay. It's okay. Hey, hey, it's okay. Coco, it's okay. It's okay. So you can see right here, every single nail has a little black dot. And that is the quick. So we're getting them right down there. The filing is nice because you can get them right down to the quick. Coco. You can get them right down to the quick without actually, you know, having an accident. It's a much safer way to get them as short as possible. Coco, you're fine. You're okay. You're okay, Coco. Coco, you're okay. Coco, you're okay. Coco, you're okay. Coco. Okay, nails are all done. Good girl, Coco. Good girl. A lot of times when I'm doing their nails, something that you guys didn't really get to see from your angle, but I'm left-handed, so if you're right-handed, you can just reverse this. But I like to take my hand, my holding hand, and I like to kind of scoop under them and give them like a little hug. And then I hold the foot, and then I use my dominant hand to control the clipper and the Dremel. And you can use this hold for all the feet. When you come to the front, you take that hand, scoop it around, you grab their front leg, And that way you can kind of just give them a little bit of a hug. It also helps control. If they were to start jumping around, they're not going to go off the table. And it just kind of is, it's a much more like secure hold, and gives them a little bit more comfort too. And you're able to lift all of their legs all within their range of motion. It's important when you're trimming nails that you're not, yanking their leg in an unnatural position. That's going to cause them a lot more discomfort. So being able to hold them or their leg in their range of motion is really, really important. So yeah. Next I'm going to do her sanitary. I do the sanitary also with the Bravura 5-in-1. I use it on the number 10 setting. When I'm doing the sanitary, I really like to go with the grain of the hair, as opposed to against it. I just find that helps reduce the amount of like irritation and reactions they get. It just keeps them more comfortable. So, but it also, still clears out so that they can go to the bathroom without getting anything caught. When you're doing their sanitary, it's important to not hike their leg up too high, like more than they can do. So just make sure that you're staying within the range of the dog's flexibility. If you need to put your table up so you can get under there better, or if you need to just kind of bend lower, but just make sure that you're not hiking their back end up too high, because that can be pretty uncomfortable for them. You can just keep that angle. I'm just gonna quick scoop up the side. Okay, so as you can see, I like to go down the thigh a little bit, not all the way down to the knee or anything, but just about halfway down their thigh. And I like to come up just about like maybe, what would you say, like a third of their underline. And then for the female dogs, I really like to clean out their vulva area really well. That way, they don't get mats or tangles or get pee stuck. But I also like to go with the grain so that it's not causing, severe irritation or anything like that. Okay, so the thing I like to start with before actually cutting their body hair is I like to do their tail. She's got kind of a weird tail going on. It's like banded and then very fluffy. So, I mean, she could have been matted last time, or I'm not sure exactly, but I'm not a big fan of this look. I usually only do it if like owners request it. It can be nice for dogs that have like really, really messy back ends. It can keep things shorter so that, their bathroom doesn't get stuck. But typically with this type of tail, I'm just gonna try and kind of blend it so it's more uniform, so there's not this harsh line with this really, really long hair. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gather it all at the end. I'm gonna take an 8-inch curve. Her tail stops right here. I'm gonna go a couple inches below that and just make a blunt cut. And then what I'm gonna do, take an 18-tooth chunker. I'm gonna fluff this hair up. I'm gonna take my chunker and just try and thin some of this hair to blend in with the shorter stuff. I'm not cutting it quite as short, but I'm just trying to blend it. So then when it grows out, next time you'll be able to cut it kind of all one length. I think that is a pretty cute style for doodles, is the tails that are just kind of all one length. It's not going to be able to be perfect today, but next time she comes in, we'll be able to do a really cute tail style on her. But that blends it pretty well. Next I'm going to start with her feet. What I like to do the feet sometimes. I kind of change up what I do. So it's important to watch every video because you might get like 7 different techniques depending on how I'm feeling that day. But with her, I'm going to go ahead and start with her feet before I shave down her body. Sometimes I like to do that just to try and make sure that I'm leaving the feet long enough. And just a nice fluffy foot, and it helps me scissor just right up and set up that nice like column leg. So what I like to do with the feet is like to start on the back. It's still in the shot. So I'm just gonna scissor. I'm gonna scissor the pad of her, or the hair kind of flush with the pad of her foot, just on the back and sides. I'm not going to touch the front of her foot. And then I'm going to come around to the front. When I'm doing feet, no matter the size of the dog, I like to use a 6-inch curved shear. Coco, stop. I'm going to make a blunt cut across the front. Then I'm just going to connect it to the back. You can kind of feel where their nails are with your scissors. I like to try and keep the nails covered as much as possible. She's one of those dogs that kind of curls her nails up. Coco, you're okay. So you can kind of rock her foot around while you're scissoring just to make sure you're getting everything, because she does kind of stand on them funny. Shh. Put your foot down. Good girl. I like to try and scissor the foot on the table as much as possible, just kind of in their natural standing position, not so much in the air. I also like to try to not hold the hair on the foot, just because you're gonna kind of like squish the foot down, or like the hair down. So I like to try and trim it just in its natural position. Coco, put your foot down. You're okay. Good girl. Coco, you're okay. Good girl. Good job. And then I'll take a 65 tooth thinner, so a very, very fine thinning shear. And just kind of go around the edges and soften it a little bit. Okay, so then we're gonna do the same thing on the front foot. If she'll let us, she's a little leg sensitive. So we're going to pick up and trim the back first. I like to comb it all down. I like to trim the hair flush with the paw pad, just on the sides and the back. And I like to come to the front, comb it all forwards, and then make a blunt cut across the front. Make sure I know where her nails are, so I'm not gonna expose those. And once you make the cut across the front, then you can just follow that line around to the back, just connecting. You're okay. You're okay, Coco. You're gonna live. I promise. Gonna leave here with all your feet. Sometimes what you can do with a dog that's kind of hopping around is you can lift their opposing leg. That just helps put weight in the leg that you're trying to trim, so they're less likely to lift it. Foot down. Good girl. Do you want to come to the front here for a minute? So, as you can see, I've scissored around the whole foot. Okay. Come on, Coco. I've scissored around the whole foot, the bottom. But you can kind of see it's kind of mushrooming out here. So what I like to do to get that pillar look is I like to take a thinning shear and just take this edge that you've cut and bring it straight up and get rid of that mushrooming look, so that it looks like your foot is just scissored right into the leg. And I recommend just kind of slowly whittling at that, just so that you don't take too much off. You just want a nice straight line between your foot and the leg. We haven't trimmed the leg yet, but straight line there now. So we're gonna do the same thing on this side, comb everything down. Gonna trim the hair flush with the paw pad. I don't like to trim any of the front hair, the front of the foot, while it's up in the air. I like to trim that when it's down on the ground. Try to do this without blocking your guys' view here. I'm gonna cut a straight, no, Coco, stop. Straight line. Coco, stop. Trying to not expose her toes. Coco. Coco. Shh. Coco. Good girl. Okay, so then when you fluff the foot up, got a nice start for a column leg. You want to be careful when you are doing this trim on the back, especially if you have a dog that's really like jumpy, twitchy. It's pretty easy to cut these little pads. So I like to use a small scissor. I feel like I have a lot of control. And I can just kind of get it in smaller places. But yeah, just be mindful of that. Make sure you're paying attention to, you know, your entire shear blade there so that you don't accidentally cut their paw. Okay, so we're gonna make the blunt cut across the front. Then we're gonna connect the sides. When I'm doing the bottom, or like kind of this bottom edge, I like to hold my shear at like a 45-degree angle. Just to help bevel that bottom edge. you guys can really see that mushrooming on this foot. So to prevent that, you're gonna take your thinner. We're gonna cut it straight. Coco, stop. We're gonna cut it straight up. Good girl. Doing so good. Okay, but then you can still see it's pretty mushroomed out on the other side. We're gonna take the thinner. Straight. Straight up. So then you can set that foot up for a nice pillar leg. So she's getting 3/4 of an inch on her body. We're gonna do a little bit of angulation today and just kind of, just kind of playing around with some different shapes. To be doing 3/4 of an inch on her body, and I'll be going through some different lengths, but I'm gonna just start with the 3/4. I'm gonna show you kind of the shape that I'm gonna do. I also like to use wide combs. If you don't use wide combs, I highly recommend it. It's a huge time saver. It also just creates a better finish. So I'm gonna start about where her shoulder blades end here, or about the middle of her shoulder blades. I like to skim it right off the top of her tail for a nice transition. So as you can see, I've taken the clipper down to about the bottom of the bend in her leg, and I did not trim off anything on the knee. I just kind of went to about, followed this line, everything here, hit with the clipper, and I left everything here and down. I'm also gonna leave a little bit of a tuck up here. I'm gonna move her tuck up a little bit, just to help shorten the dog. So what happens when you take some length off back here, we'll be taking more, but when you take length off back here and you move up their tuck up, take their chest in, you actually shorten her. So she'll just look a little bit more balanced and more proportional. I'm gonna go ahead and skim down just the front of her leg here. Okay. So now we're gonna add in a little bit of angulation in her rear. I'm gonna use my 3/8 inch clip comb. Where you see this bend in her leg, that's where you're gonna set your angulation. So you're just gonna scoop it. You don't want to go too far down because you want some fill up in here, although she's very thin, so it's not going to look as good. But you want to leave this, you can kind of fill it in. You just want to scoop right in that bend. And then I'm also going to take just her underline right here just to lengthen her legs a little bit. If I take it up just a little bit, it'll give her a little bit of a longer leg appearance. Okay, so we're gonna have to deal with this little thin spot. We're gonna have to use imagination that there is hair here, because there is not. But what I like to do is just kind of start mid-thigh. I'm gonna use my chunker and just kind of lightly shape the front of her leg. I don't want to take off a whole lot of length there. Yeah, that's fine. Just got really hot for a minute. Coco. Not gonna thin too much back here just because I don't want to cut into that thin spot anymore. So we're just gonna shape it. Okay, so now that we got this leg, the bottom half set up, now we're gonna do this hip. So you don't want, like, you can make this as dramatic as you want, but I don't want her to look like she has like too big of a shelf butt. So I'm gonna just thin this up and then create a little bit of a point, kind of like a Pac-Man, but not too harsh. You don't want like a big, a harsh V or anything like that. You just want a little bit of an angle back here. If you're not careful, you can scissor it in pretty harsh, but you can always take some of the angle out if you do happen to scissor it too harsh. You can always take, you can scissor the point off a little bit. Oh, who's that? Huh? Yeah. Okay, come here, Coco. Stay. Stay. So you can kind of see her back end, there's a little bit of angulation there. Now we're gonna set in her tuck up. So if you were to section out her stomach into 3 sections, you kind of want it at the edge of that first section. So you're gonna cut that up a little bit higher. And then you're gonna just kind of envision a U here with that front of that 3rd section being your shortest point. She has to grow in a little bit, but it's at least a start. You want to make sure, even though you're leaving this hair along, you want to make sure that you're pulling this hair out of the tuck up and scissoring it. Otherwise it'll pop out later and won't look very good. Okay, so then with my dogs, the way that I get the really smooth finish is I just like to go over their body just a little bit with the scissor. There's stuff that the clipper won't pick up. So I like to just run my scissor over. I'm only taking, you know, like a 1/16 of an inch off, just the little hairs that the clipper didn't get. It doesn't take very long, but it makes a huge difference in their haircut. I like to use my 8-inch curve shear on her rib cage, and then I use a straight for pretty much everything else. When I first started grooming, I didn't have curved scissors, I just had straights, so I learned how to do a lot with just my straights, so that is just kind of where I tend to go, is just to my straight shears. It's important to make sure that you walk all the way around your legs and your body, just to make sure that you're getting everything even. Because if you scissor everything from one point of view, you can miss some spots. So it's important to look at the legs straight on from the front, straight on from the side, straight on from the back, and just kind of try and change up your view as much as possible. When we're scissoring her front, we're gonna leave a little bit of fill in the back of the armpit here. We're not gonna scissor that super harsh. We're just gonna leave that a little bit fuller. We're also going to leave the back of her leg a little fuller. So that just helps create, you know, that shortness that we're looking for. So we're gonna scissor the front of her leg, keeping it still column with the foot. But we did already skim quite a bit off when we were clipping her down, so just needs a little bit of tidying with the scissor. Okay, so we're just gonna lightly shape the back of this leg without taking off too much length. Okay, so we're done with this side. So now we're gonna go ahead, do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna take the 3/4, we're gonna start about halfway towards the back of her shoulder blades. And then we're gonna bring the clipper down, leave the front, leave the back of her leg, leave a little bit of tuck up. Okay, then we're gonna take the 3/8 inch comb and give her some angulation in her rear. Remember, it's where that bend is where we're gonna aim to carve out. We're gonna do her underline here. Just the front portion because we want to scissor in her tuck up. Okay, so we're going to comb it up and just scissor in her thigh, avoiding that knee in the front of the back leg. gonna take our curved shear and just set in that angulation. She's got a little bit of a thin spot back here too, so we're not gonna scissor that too much. Now we're just gonna lightly shape up her hock here. Now we're just gonna lightly shape the front of her knee. We're gonna trim in this tuck up. So if you imagine cutting her belly into thirds, let's see. I'm gonna take that top of that third line, or the front of the first section, and we're gonna create just a little bit of a U here. And when you're trimming pets, the owners aren't necessarily going to understand all of this or know how to ask for it, but if you're able to put this into your pet trims, just kind of do a little bit of angulation and like structure correction a little bit, the owners are definitely going to notice that their dogs just look better. They won't necessarily be able to figure out what it is, but they'll be able to tell that their dog just looks better. And it'll definitely set you apart from other groomers. And this is also a good thing to practice for if you're interested in like competing. There's a lot of angulation and structure that goes into a lot of those haircuts, so it's a good thing to practice, especially on dogs that really aren't conformationally correct. It's fun to kind of play with different shapes and see what you can make them look like just by leaving a little more hair in some spots or taking some spots shorter. She's got a little bit of a hole here I'm not sure. She had like some vet work or something, but we're just gonna leave that alone. Good girl. Stay. Okay, so we're just gonna shape the back of her leg a little bit with the thinner, or with the chunkers. And these are my 18 tooth chunker from American Sharpening. These chunkers are really, really, really nice. He is my sharpener here in Minnesota, and he does sell them. He does not have a website, but if you're interested in purchasing them, we're gonna be making a product video. So just keep an eye out for that, and I'll have all my products listed and where you can find them. Or you can find me on Instagram. I post a lot of information about my tools and products on there. Okay, so this side is also done. Now we can start on her head. I'm gonna keep her at this angled for just a second while I show you guys kind of how I set up the crest area. Just leaving a little bit of fill so that it blends nicely from the body into the head. You don't want it too long because, of course, like where the collar sits is generally the area that gets the most matted. So we're not gonna leave it super long, but I'm gonna kind of show you guys how I set that up. So I'm gonna take the 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna find kind of the back of her ear. I'm gonna take that line straight down. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Then I'm gonna take the 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to take from kind of like the back of her jaw across to the other side of the back of her jaw in like a little U shape, and everything in the front of her neck. I'll turn her here. I'm gonna take from back of the jaw to the back of the jaw and then down in like a little U shape. I'm gonna take all of that just to a little bit shorter. It's gonna lengthen her neck a little bit, and it's also going to set in a pretty distinct jawline. Okay, now we're just gonna scissor what we trimmed here. Good girl. So you can see we've set up a pretty distinct jawline here, but also from the side. Coco. From the side, it gives her a lot more neck. Gives her an appearance of a much longer neck. So then we're gonna scissor in her little crest. Like I said, we don't want it to be a ton longer. I like to kind of hold their head back a little bit and scissor that up so you get a good transition. Get a good transition from the body into the neck. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Coco. So that is kind of how you want it to look. Not a ton longer, but just a little bit. All right, now we can work on your head. Okay, so when I start their head, I'm just gonna scissor her head, since she doesn't have a ton of hair, and we did a pretty long scissor cut on her, so I'm just gonna scissor her head. What I like to start with is a number 10 blade. I like to start right in their eyes. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to position my clipper towards her eyes, and I'm just going to connect eye corner to eye corner. I'm not gonna dig out a whole lot. I'm gonna leave all this fill here. Coco. I'm gonna leave all this fill here on the top of her nose. I'm just gonna get from eye corner to eye corner. Okay, then what I like to do is use my brush and close their mouth, brush up the hairs, the little lip hairs, and just shave those. the number 10. That just helps clean up those little scragglies in their lips. And then I like to fold their ears back and trim just a little path right in front of their ears. Just so that air can get in there a little easier. I'm not a big ear hair puller, so this is kind of my way of being able to clear out the ear canal a little bit. If she had a lot of hair in there, I would try and pull it up and clip it out. Okay, so now that we have kind of the base of her face set up, a lot of times I like to start with the bottom, with their chin, and kind of face line here. Comb it all down. I like to take a curve shear. A lot of times I like to hold right in front of their mouth in case they were to lick. I like to follow that line all the way back. With these dogs that like to pant a lot, giving them time to pant is important, but when you're actually doing the scissoring, you can kind of blow gently in their face, and that usually helps. I'm just thinning some of those hairs that are hanging into her mouth here. Good girl. So then what we want to do is just round this edge a little bit. Really just want to round. I like to keep the lip line short, unless the owner has a preference that they don't like that, but I like to keep it, you know, pretty tight along the lip line just because they do get a lot of food and stuff in there, so it gets really slobbery. I like to thin down right in front of the ears just to help airflow get back there. Okay, now we're gonna do her jawline. We're gonna comb everything down. We're gonna take a chunker and just trim everything hanging over, and then we're gonna keep working our way up with combing, trimming. I'm gonna lift her lip and just thin these little scragglies right in the front edge. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to comb everything down. Try to keep her from panting for a couple minutes here while we do this. Okay, then we're gonna work on rounding out. Whoop, stay. Good girl. I prefer to kind of whittle away with my thinners rather than using my scissors, just because the thinners are a little bit more forgiving. Coco, do you want to go fur? To go fur? Go for walkie? Good girl. Okay, so now we're going to trim just the little top of her nose. Just round it out a little bit. It's pretty short. But I just want to make sure she doesn't get any, it doesn't stick up and get in her eyes. I like to just use my thinners on that portion. Good girl. Good girl. Come here. Okay, now when I do her visor and her eyes, I'm going to come at this angle on this side, this angle at this side. It's important to match the angle so that you kind of get it more even. So I'm cutting the outside corner slightly shorter than the inside corner. Ouch. That really helps just kind of open up their face, give them a more puppy look. And she doesn't really have much for eyelashes. I like to save eyelashes when they have them, but she's pretty sparse there. Okay, now we're gonna comb everything forwards. So what you want is you kind of want a little U in here. So we're gonna trim all the overhang. We're just gonna kind of bring it back. but keeping the middle a little bit longer. Shh, shh. Coco. No. Coco, do you want to go for a walkie? Do you go for? Go for? Go outside? Good girl. Shh. Okay, then for the top of her head, we're just gonna scissor it. It kind of flops a little bit, so what I like to do is just follow from that line of the corner of the eye, follow it straight back. Kind of work my way around the head. No. Good girl. Shh. Good girl. Very good girl. Yeah. Shh, shh, shh. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, so with her ears, her parents like them pretty long and just kind of straight at the edges. So I like to trim the dead ends off the edges. It kind of puffs them out, makes them look a little fuller. So I'm going to gather them with my finger and just thin the edges. I like to fold them back and just kind of follow this line lightly, rounding it down there to round it a little bit in the front. Just giving them a nice trimmed appearance, manicured look. With these types of ears, a lot of times less is better because they just don't have a whole lot going on. It's always important as they wiggle and move to check their ears again, because sometimes little hairs will pop out. So now her haircut is all done. Just gonna clean up the tools.
Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe as it helps this channel out so much. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can keep up to date with my latest videos. We'll see you next time.